Hey, so good morning, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I want to talk to you guys today specifically about rental income and how you can take advantage of it as a business owner, and how it affects your commercial loans. So if you're buying a property that you're going to be maybe collecting rent or anything like that, um, it's going to definitely hopefully this conversation definitely helps you out. Now, before I get started, before we get into everything, just take a moment, subscribe down below, hit the button, join our team, add me if you want to stay updated with the latest information on what's going on within the current commercial real estate market. Just make sure you click below. So, with that being said, my name is Rick Charles. I'm a commercial loans mortgage professional. So, when you have a commercial loan, you're gonna get properties that you get rental income. So you might get a big office building or stuff like that. So one of the things that has to be determined is the rent roll and how it is derived and whatnot. So when you have that, you have to make sure the rent makes sense. Because really, you're supposed to be able to pay the entire your mortgage of the entire building just off of the rent. Okay, so the rent should take care of your mortgage. So really, you shouldn't have to be paying however many thousands of dollars for rent. Okay, so with that being said, you have an office building. It has several rooms that can be rented out. Now, keep in mind, when you're doing like an investment property, you do not want to be in there. You do not want to have a space in there. You do not want to be found in there. The reason why is because they look at the loan differently. So when you have an investment property, the loan is completely different from an owner-occupied property, because they're going to want to know what kind of percentage that you're going to actually own and use in that property. So that's one thing. So if you have a investment property, when you put together your package, if you're going to own the building as the landlord, make sure you are not buying the property and saying stuff like, "Oh, I'm staying in there," because the loan format is going to be completely different. So, but in other sense, if you're buying a property and you have rent spaces, when you're collecting rent, it should be able to cover your monthly payment, and you should have some profit level. Maybe when you initially start, you probably heard this in the residential, somebody's buying a duplex. So whatever you're collecting for rent should cover their spot and your spot for the mortgage. It should pay for the mortgage. All right? It should pay for the mortgage. After the rent pays for the mortgage, whatever you have left is profit. Okay? So remember, when you collect rent, the rent should pay for the mortgage. The mortgage should not come out of your pocket. That's rule number one. All right? So if you're making your rent and it's not covering your mortgage, then it's not a good rent. You're not priced well. Okay? So that's rule number one. Okay? So if you're in a duplex and the duplex is $800, you should at least be collecting $1,200, something like that. You got me? If the rent is $600, you should be collecting $1,000, $1,200, something like that. Okay? So when you're collecting your rent, it's all about making sure the rent is covering your mortgage. So what does that mean? What in the world does that mean? So if you're an investor and you're you're buying properties. You can buy properties left and right, and then have the rent cover the property, and you're not spending any money. The only money you're spending is to be able to put the property, purchase the property, and then after that you're putting it up for rent. So every year you're just having somebody sign up and pay rent, and in actuality, those guys are just paying the mortgage for you. So that's like a major secret that you should know. You know what I mean? What I'm gonna do for you guys, if you watch this whole video, I'm gonna make sure down below I put down a link to capture a real neat rent roll, so you can actually keep track of your mortgage. If you have multiple spaces that you rent out, you can use that to take care of your clients and whatnot, and keep track of your rent. So I'll make sure I attach a real neat rent roll down below, and let's keep it moving. So, how do you come up with a rental price? Okay, so the rule that I've heard, and I think it works, is your rent should be double your mortgage. It should always be double what the mortgage is. Okay, so you can have multiple, like an office building with like 30 offices. In those 30 offices, the rent should be able to pay for the mortgage. There should be no questions. Month in, month out, the rent is what's paying for the mortgage. You know what I mean? When that happens, what happens when that happens is now you got a property that you're making profit. The mortgage is being paid for, and it's rent free. So it can go for commercial or residential. So if you have a residential property, you're collecting rent on, this should pay for the mortgage, and you should have a little something in profit. All right. Commercial, same thing. It should pay for the mortgage. You should have something left in profit. If that's not happening, it's not a good investment. If that's not happening, it's not a good investment. So anytime you want to become, quote unquote, a landlord, whether it's a commercial, like an office building or a facility of that nature, anytime you want to become a landlord, that has to be taken care of. If that's not taken care of, then you're spending money, because if rent is coming out of your pocket, then you're taking away the ability to be able to purchase more properties. All right, so that's a huge little piece of information when it comes to purchasing a property for rent and whatnot. So another thing, management. You have to have a critical system to allow you to manage the money that's coming in and money that's going out and whatnot. So at the end of the year, the property is going to make you a certain amount of money. It's going to make you a certain amount of money. And in that case, from that standpoint, as the property is making you that money, you in turn should be able to pay your rent and whatnot. So with that being said, when you do that, and like I said, you don't want to be spending your own money to take care of the property, because then it's going to kill the idea of you trying to invest money to buy more properties and whatnot. So it's got to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make dollars. All right? It doesn't make sense, it doesn't make dollars. Remember, you got to make sense to make dollars. All right? So why take advantage of this? All right? If you're an investor, you're investing in commercial real estate, right? And you want to rent the property out, okay? It's a huge opportunity. Right now, with the coronavirus, with everything going on, they're giving away properties. You just got to be able to afford it, right? You get the property, you rent it out, interest rates are super low, you rent it out, and it's paying for itself. When the property is paying for itself, you're not in any kind of trouble. You're not worried about that when the property is paying for itself. You understand what I'm saying? So what happens when the property is paying for itself you in turn become a winner, a superstar. Um, it becomes a top priority, top knit priority for you. And then you're also taking the time to invest in more properties. You're taking the time to invest in more properties. You're taking the time to invest in more properties, and it's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? So, with that being said, with that being said, make sure you subscribe down below. Make sure you hit that like button. You know what I mean? Shoot me a message, drop a comment, ask me questions. I'm here to help. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We'll talk.